Third Power gives us flexibility on the real estate side to say, hey, we don't have to sell this. We don't need the money today. Let's hold it, turn it into a rental, add it to the portfolio.
I think that's what's really powerful about what you've built and kind of the two companies that you're running, because I mean that, at the end of the day, making quick cash on flips and wholesales is all fun and dandy, right? But the goal is to build that portfolio, invest your money into assets that continue to pay you when you can't work.
Absolutely.
And so being able to, you I'm sure you guys have done flips and you've done some done some wholesales, but exactly like you said, being able to pick and choose, not worry about the bills not being paid. You've got this company going, and this is strictly going out and hunting to
deals,
add to that portfolio.
Yes.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Pursuit of Property podcast. Today we are here with our good friend from Hemi Construction, Henry Resendez.
Yes.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, guys. How about yourselves?
We are doing great.
Fantastic.
Henry is coming in off a 24-hour notice, which is rare for the pod, but we already recorded like 15 minutes of a good podcast before we realized.
So is this the outro? Is okay.
We need to get started. So, dude, thank you for coming in.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for inviting me over here.
Well, let's recap a little bit of what we were talking about before. Tell us about your education background.
My education. So I am a high school graduate. Went to Bullard High School. Actually, Tenaya Middle School, then Bullard High School. And I only went to Bullard till my sophomore year. And then I started working full-time in construction. My grandfather was a licensed general contractor, and his dream was to have me take over the family business. So opted for that route, and he kind of enticed me and lured me over by giving me a pickup, a 1991 GMC Sierra extended cab, and he knew I really wanted that truck. So that's kind of what he used to twist my arm over to the dark side, right? So actually went to DeWolf High School. They had a work program, and I opted to take a test, an exam similar to a GED. I have a proficiency high school diploma that is only recognized here in the state of California, which I don't have any plans to ever leave California. But yeah, that's my highest level of education. And I have a PhD in construction, by the way.
Well, that's why we have you in. Is your background is much more sophisticated than a lot of the people who come on. You've got your general contractor's license,
correct,
and you do a lot of time in fire restoration right now.
That is my bread and butter. So, since we're on that topic, I would say around 8 years ago, kind of made a commitment to only take on insurance losses for insurance payouts.
Why?
So lucrative.
So
lucrative, and they keep us very busy throughout the year.
How did you know about that?
So my grandfather actually introduced me to that, 15, 17 years ago, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just kind of started getting better and better at that, networking with insurance adjusters, learning how to use their estimating tool that's preferred across the board. So, yeah.
Well, and that's what I wanted to ask. Whatever ended up happening, did you end up taking over your grandfather's company and growing that into this niche of fire restoration, or how did that branch off happen?
Well, first of all, it's very difficult working with family.
Yeah.
And it was just a long time coming. Like, I should have broke away sooner, So for the last 15 years of my grandfather's company, I was running the day-to-day operations. And, my grandpa was very old school. He felt if there was a nail to pound, we had to pound that nail. And it sucks up all your time when I should be out hunting projects. I'm over there manually doing the work. It was good and bad in the beginning because I get to learn all these trades, and I have journeyman level experience at HVAC, electrical, plumbing, you name it, carpentry, all of it. So it makes me a better tradesman, but I have to, like now I kind of sub a lot of things out. I pick and choose what do I want to do. And it just allows me to go out and hunt more projects.
I want to dive into that, but let's linger here for a minute. Kate and I have zero construction background, and I think for us, I call it the newbie method, where we do a lot of price per square foot stuff and things like that. And obviously, that's not how projects actually get budgeted. It's not strictly price per square foot. Maybe that's material and labor on flooring or certain things. But how many years were you doing all the tradesman activities? And then
for years.
At what point did you say, you know what, I think I've got every single one of these things nailed down. Like, let's consider doing more of this other.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. So when I broke away, to be honest with you, so I got my own license in 2018. So 5 years now. It'll be 5 years this November.
And how many years were you working in construction at that point?
Since I was 16 years old. Okay, so probably 20 years.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And when I tell you I started at the very bottom, I was the labor. Stack lumber here, dig a hole here, dig a trench here, and then slowly pick up the hammer, frame this, nail this together. And, you learn. Construction is something that you learn by doing. There's you can study and watch videos or whatever you want to do. You have to get out there and get dirty. You're gonna smash your finger with that hammer a few times when you first start, and it's just natural. It happens.
Do you kind of miss doing some of the manual labor?
I don't miss it. And it's funny because I had this conversation with Jason Saturday, and I said I have to keep my skills sharp. If I don't do something for a while and then I pick up that hammer, it's a little rusty the first few swings, So I like to keep my skills sharp, and I have this sick love-hate relationship with it. I do like, performing the trade work. I was having a conversation with another real estate investor. I said, sometimes I get more tired sitting at my desk doing desk work, and it's like I need to break away and get out in the field. I'm itching to get out there. Like it's just something I feel comfortable doing.
Yeah.
But the desk work and hunting the projects is necessary, so.
Well, and I'll bridge that into, you and I had lunch a couple of weeks ago.
We did.
And you made a funny point.
No invite?
Dude.
Sorry.
I'm gonna let Kate answer that one.
And you had said something funny because, and we'll get into your story here about transitioning. Well, not transitioning, but adding on the investor piece to your business.
Yeah.
But when you've been in the trenches, right, getting back into it, keeping your skills sharp, but having to answer the Google Voice calls that are routed into your phone, and taking off your gloves and going to somewhere quiet, like. Talk about that a little bit, too.
I have this sick mental block where I have, trust issues, and I need to hire somebody. So, once again, I'm on the fence on hiring a VA because of what you just said, Kate, because, all the calls that come in for Hemi Investments ring to my phone, okay? And I can tell I have Google Voice. That's my main phone number. There's a lot of little things that we need to make adjustments for. We need to add some other phone numbers. I need a VA to start answering these calls because guys are out there making noise, hammers are flying, nails are being pounded, and it's like I'm running to my truck to answer this damn call, and I have to catch my breath and be professional. Like, yes, hi, this is Henry with Hemi Investments. How can I help you? And it's hard to do that when you're out in the damn field, so yeah.
And it's 106 out.
You're panting like a dog.
Yeah.
So when you left your grandpa, how long had you been thinking about, because you were working all insurance with your grandpa?
Towards the end, yes. But we used to take on remodeling, additions, kitchen and bath remodels.
For homeowners or
for homeowners?
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So we used to do all those things, but it's very challenging when you're working in somebody's home and they're occupying it. And I don't miss that part. Like I just recently completed a fire repair where they were occupying it. I don't like it. We're dealing with dust control.
Yeah.
Oh, can you let us in? We're here to work. And, they're a little leery. They don't want to just let us put a lockbox and have a key to access the property. I get it. All your personal stuff's there. What's nice about fire is that these houses are so destroyed, they're not habitable. You have no choice. Like, you got to go live somewhere else. And I'm happy about that. Not to sound rude about it, but it's like it just makes our jobs easier. Had a cabinet installer one time. Hey, how late can I work here? As late until you can't see, man. Go ahead and stay as long as you want. Can't do that when you're working in somebody's home and they're residing there.
Right. And it feels like that would be very much a micromanaging situation where, the average person like me or Cade may not know what that process looks like, and we may ask a lot of questions or maybe out of our own expertise give you advice on what to do. And so when you own the property or it's fire damage, you don't have that person peeking over your shoulder.
Absolutely, yeah. And then we get full control because it's, at the end of the day, when I'm working for a client that has a fire damage property, I have to ask permission for everything. Hey, do you like this ceiling fan? Do you like this vanity? Do you like these cabinets? And sometimes I have to bring them back down to earth because some people will, they think they have a lottery ticket. No, hey, listen, we have a budget still. Okay, this is what's allotted for material. This is what's allotted for labor. And I have to kind of slowly bring them down to earth and say, hey, look, we can go high grade custom stuff if you're willing to pay the differences. So we have to have those conversations, and we find some middle ground. But it's asking, do you like this? Do you like that? When we own the property, as you both know, when you're rehabbing your own properties, I don't ask anybody. As long as it fits within our budgets and we like the colors. And we have to keep in mind, too, at the same time, we can't go all gothic on the house because that may be our personal style. We have to find colors that are going to appeal to the masses, right?
Right.
Yeah. Well, and talk about the flip side too, because you're talking about the relationship and the conversations with the homeowner,
correct?
Right, with all this stuff. What about at the very beginning when you're kind of the middleman and you're going to bat for your clients when you're talking with the insurance companies,
adjuster? Yeah.
How does
absolutely.
that conversation look?
You know what? We try to get along pretty well, and everybody's personality is different, right? So there's some adjusters, and they kind of have their chest puffed out. Hey, I've been estimating claims for 25 years, and whatever I say goes. Those are the challenging ones to deal with. I actually took on a fire repair for Jason. I'm going to mention him here again in Hanford because that was probably the last challenging adjuster that I had to deal with. And I've learned over the years because when I was younger, I would puff the chest out too. Oh yeah, well I'm a contractor, blah blah blah, and it's like now I just kind of laugh it back and I'll take a step back. You know what? I understand you've been estimating for 25 years and that's great. However, you've missed X, Y, and Z, and we need to assess these things. And you get more bees with honey, right? So from that standpoint, things go smoother, and we're able to work it out.
So when you're talking with those insurance adjusters, what does that process look like? I've never had a property burn.
Well, I just walk over there and I tell them, listen, man, no.
Yeah, puff your chest out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, how do you even get contacted for that job?
So I have built some relationships with certain adjusters here locally. They have to walk a fine line. They can't flat out tell the client, hey, he's good, hire them. All he can do is simply make he or her, all they can do is make a introduction. Hey, Henry takes on nothing but fire restoration claims. His customers seem to be happy, and that's about it. They can't really overstep. They have to walk that fine line. The reason why they cannot encourage you to hire somebody is that there's California state laws that we all have to abide by. They can only refer somebody if the client asks. Okay, so if they ask, they can provide a list. It can be a short list. They can provide 3 or 5 references. And all I ask is, hey, put me at the top of that list.
So when you get introduced, you talk with the client.
I speak with the client directly. It's still their decision. They are entitled to choose whomever they want. It's their property.
Right.
And we have to be very transparent about that. And it's my job to convince them. So lately it's been like, hey, let's make some content. Let's shoot some cool videos before and after. It's one thing for me to tell you we're pretty good at what we do. It's another thing if I can bombard you with 10, hey, check. I want to send them so many things. They're like, dude, stop. It's too much. Like, well, I'm just trying to show you that this is what we do.
Yeah.
This is how we can make your house look. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Well, and how are, like, when so you get the job, right, and things are handled, how are funds handled throughout, like a fire restoration project?
That's a great question. So this is why not any general contractor can take on these projects, because some people aren't used to waiting to get paid. So you brought up how do the monies get paid out? So 99% of my projects have a mortgage on them, right? So the mortgage carriers, they're the silent owner too, right? The check would be cut from the insurance company to the homeowner's name and the lien holder, the mortgage company. All those funds go to the mortgage company's lost drafts department. They deposit those funds into a restricted escrow account. They'll send you a list of procedures, all the paperwork they require. They're very particular. If you don't send them everything that they want, they will not release any money. Now, they release draw payments in pretty significant increments, right? Usually it's 3 or 4 checks throughout the job. So if we're dealing with a project, some of my projects, $350,000 claims, we'll get a check for like 90 grand up front. And we have to go from 0% all the way to 50%.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Just on that 90,000.
Just on that 90,000. So then sometimes the homeowners will raise an eyebrow. Oh man, this is a big check. And I'll say, listen, I have to go from 0 to 50. Look at the whole number. Okay. There's going to be a time where you're trusting me in the beginning, and then I'm going to have to trust you that once these payments keep trickling in, you're going to gladly just hand them over, because it's not going to get me, this 90 grand is going to go quick. And now I have to wait to get another payment. So we carry a lot of cash on hand to fund these jobs. A lot of contractors won't do that. They'll stop and they'll say, hey, we can't go any further until we get a payment. So,
well, in payment, to clarify, the payments, when the draws are cut, they're coming out of this restricted escrow account
from the mortgage carrier, whose
to the homeowner,
whose offices are on the East Coast.
You can't get a hold of them on the phone.
It's like 30 to 40 minutes every time I call to talk to these guys.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So then it's cut. The draw is given to the homeowner, and the homeowner pays you.
The check is cut. See, before they used to do things differently. They would name me and the homeowner. They've stopped doing that. Checks are made strictly to the homeowner's name now. So it goes to the property owner. And keep in mind, these are big checks. So what does the bank say? Oh, it's a big check. 7 to 10 day business hold. So now there's more waiting involved.
Yeah.
And, hey, there's no way around that. Well, I take it back. Unless the owner has a significant amount of money in their bank account, then they'll go ahead and issue it right away. But for the most part, there's going to be a hold on it.
And just based on the honor system now, because, homeowners, probably many have never seen a $90,000 check at one time hit their account, right?
Absolutely.
Have there been, is it based on an honor system when, for you
it's all
start to get paid out?
It's all trust. And I tell my potential clients at the beginning, hey, this is a relationship like any other relationship. We have to have communication. We have to trust one another, okay? And we have to get along. All those things are very important. So, do I get a little? Of course, because there are substantial amounts of money. Now you understand why the mortgage company is named on the check. Can you imagine a world where the mortgage company said, "Oh, $350,000 claim. We trust you. Here's the money." You guys, can you imagine? They would say, "Hey, screw this house. We're gonna go and buy the dream car or take the vacation we've been dying to do."
Yeah. Well, okay. So then they cut the personal check. It goes to you. You get started on it. What's that first 50% look like on a fire restoration project?
So by that time, we have all the demolition work done in the background. Plans are being drawn, getting submitted to the city of Fresno or the county of Fresno or Clovis, wherever we're working. Okay, we have to deal with that local building jurisdiction, and they're all slow moving. I can tell you right now, they share that in common. They're very slow moving. We're looking at 3 to 4 month turnaround for a plan check, and it's ridiculous, right? Because
why is that?
It's funny because it's the office, the plan checkers. They want to make sure everything's dialed in, and it's like, look, guys, we're not reinventing the wheel here, So it's like DMV. You go in and take a number. So as soon as we get those plans in, if there's a tract developer ahead of us that submits plans for 100 houses, well, they're in front. We have to wait till they're out of the way, and then it's just next in line. It's first come, first served. On my repairs, it's a little different because the foundation's there. We're not altering the footprint of the building. We're basically putting it back together the way that it was. Although we're using different materials for the finishes, restrooms are where they are, kitchen's where it's at, garage is where it's at. We're not modifying the layout of the house.
So who drafts those plans?
The draftsman that I've been working with is my man Tony Gonzalez at Unique Designs.
And what does that process look like? Does he have to come walk the property?
Absolutely. Yeah. Every property is different. So what I like to do is we like to do all the demolition work before he comes out. So he's not trying to walk through all the insulation that's on the floor with drywall and other debris in the way. we'll gut it all out and say, hey, Tony, come on. We need the plans. I need them yesterday. Him and I joke all the time because I say, oh, this should take you about 5 minutes. Come on, man, let's go.
And is that another relationship? Like, obviously, that's subbed out, right, to your
Correct.
draftsman?
Yes.
And yep, because I'm
you don't want to
thinking of
see
the way
my drawings, Kate.
yeah. I'm going back to like the way the money's flowing in this whole process, right? And how is draftsman getting paid?
Plans are not paid. That initial check that's cut. So let's say, and we don't make up the prices. So we use the insurance preferred estimating tool. Okay, so they're owned by a company called Exactware, and the product that we're using is called Xactimate. Okay. So every 30 days, we download a new price list for our zip code that we're working in, okay? Every city, every zip code is different. And it's kind of compiled by other contractors and rates, and it's pretty cool. It's a powerful tool. Now, keep in mind, they'll have like tier levels. Like if we use a finish item, say cabinetry, they don't have, KitchenAid cabinet, or whatever, craft-made cabinets or whatever the brand may be. They'll have economical grade, average grade, better, and then custom. So it's our job as the contractor on site. We can tell by looking at something what grade, and we select the category for what we see on site. So that's the obligation with the insurance carrier. They owe you for what you had prior. So if you had Formica countertops, guess what? That's all we can collect for. I can't say, hey, we had quartz here, man. No, that's not quartz. That's Formica. That's what we're going to get reimbursed for.
Yeah. And so when the insurance adjuster, does he do a separate estimate and you do an estimate?
It depends on the adjuster. So what I like to do, and I like to schmooze my way in, right? So I will offer them and say, hey, how about I write the estimate, and I have the ability to send him the file that I've used to create it. What that would do on his end, he can totally take my letterhead off, slap his on there, and call it good. And that saves a lot of the legwork. Some adjusters are like, oh, really? Yeah, well, I'll let you write it, and then I'll review it. Some adjusters will say, well, no, I need to write my own. And then I write my own anyways because I kind of want to see where are we different. Yeah. Once again, we don't create the prices. The thing that we have control over is square footages, linear footages. If we're talking cabinets are paid in lineal footages. So if he totally misses a section, maybe there's a small coffee bar, right? 3 feet of cabinetry. Well, we leave that out. That's just dollars on the table. Because not only did we leave out the cabinets, we left out the countertop, the backsplash along with it, cabinet pulls, the list goes on and on. So one little item can turn into a couple of $1,000s really quick.
Yeah.
And so you work with the insurance adjusters.
Correct.
You work with the draftsman. You work with the client. You work with
the city or the county or whatever building jurisdiction.
How many relationships are you managing?
Too many.
Like it sounds like it's... You said it's a lucrative business, but this sounds really difficult.
It's a lucrative business. It is difficult. It's challenging. And not to mention, with fire restoration here in Fresno, so the fire department has these ordinances, and they'll get involved and say, the building department will come out, and part of the first step we have to take, it's called a residential property inspection, damage inspection, okay? Because there's so many different ways a property can sustain damage, right? Fire obviously being number one. Runaway car, vehicle crashes into a building, tree fall over, wind damage, okay, water damage. There's so many different ways. So they'll classify it as a residential property damage inspection. They'll come out, and it's kind of a pre-printed form. And one of the boxes on there is you must consult with the fire department. So most of the time they're going to check that box. So when we consult with the fire department, they're going to say, based on the damages the building has sustained, guess what? We now want a fire protection system. So fire sprinklers throughout the entire house, including the garage. So that's another entity that we have to deal with. Okay.
And what does that look like cost-wise?
Cost-wise, for your average single-family dwelling, between 1,500 and 1,700 square feet. By the time you pay labor, material, and the permit fee with the fire department, you have to pull out your own permit separate from the building side. You're looking between $9,000 and $10,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
And this is like retrofitting old homes that didn't have
it prior. So that's a good point. So since you brought that up, if your insurance policy doesn't have building code and ordinance upgrades, guess who's paying for that fire protection system? The homeowner.
Oh,
Because if you don't have that
mandatory.
rider, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that rider in your policy, they're going to say, hey, building didn't have it before and you don't have code upgrades in your policy, falls back on the homeowner.
Wow.
That's happened
That's
a few
good
times.
to know.
Yeah.
That's a very good thing to know. For
I am
people
an
to double-check their
advocate
policies.
for people making sure they have the proper insurance because I see a lot of the ugliness that can happen. And a lot of us think, hey, that's never going to happen to me. Well,
Everyone says
all
that.
of my clients thought the same thing, and they have to go through it.
I'm curious, talking about insurance companies, has there been, in your experience, better insurance companies that have been not only better for you to work with, but just an all-around smoother transaction, or have they all been pretty similar?
You know, Kay, that's a very unfair question, and I've had people ask me that before. Because remember, I'm dealing with one representative.
Yeah.
And it's so hard to gauge a company with that one representative because everybody's personality is different, right? So let's just use Farmers Insurance as an example of that. There are some adjusters I just have the smoothest time with, and there are some that just give me the hardest time. They push back on everything. Well, why do we need to change this out? Or why are you proposing this? Or why are we doing that? And it's not fair because we're dealing with the one assigned representative from that company, and it's hard to gauge them based on that. At the end of the day, they all pay out. Okay. And they have to. I mean, hey, look, they have laws that they have to follow as well.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, what's right is right. It's my job to kind of, show them and prove to them, hey, look, we need to alter these windows in the bedroom because they don't meet fire code escape. It's called egress. We have to modify the openings. And okay, great. Do you have a correction? Here it is. This is what the city wants us to do. So if we provide them things that can support their file, because they have bosses just like everybody else, they have a manager. And if their manager sees something that was paid out that they don't have justification for, then they can come down hard on them. So, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Again, more relationships that you have to manage.
A lot of relationships. There's a lot of moving pieces when we take on a fire claim.
And what's the name of your construction company, real quick?
Third Power Construction. Kind of a play on my name because I'm Henry Resendez III.
Dude, you are on point. See, and you were telling us earlier, we'll transition into your Hemi Investments.
Hemi Investments, yes.
What does Hemi stand for?
My wife's name is Michelle. So Hemi, people say, oh, are you a Dodge fan? No, it has nothing to do with the motor company. First two initials of my name and first two initials of her name.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So let's make that transition. You went from doing a lot of insurance stuff. You still do.
I still do, yes.
But now, the reason we have you in here is because you're beating me out on so many deals, including in my own neighborhood. I told you that he locked up a deal around the corner that I used to run by every day. And
and you couldn't get a hold of him for
find
however
the
long.
homeowner.
2 days before, I'm banging on the door. They're like, oh yeah, we're going to take, the neighbor's like, they're going to take an offer from somebody. And I'm like, please open the door. And so you're finding a lot of deals now and doing your own projects.
We're starting to gain some traction. So we've kind of dabbled in real estate investing, I would say in 2019. I actually came across a fire loss. It's one of my first transactions in real estate. And the reason why I fell in love with it, I went to go out and I was talking with the homeowner and everything was looking good. And then he shows me his insurance policy. He has a California Fair Plan. And I'm like, oh my God, this is probably the worst policy that anybody can carry. And it had limitations. I think his policy maxed out at $60,000.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, Anthony, you have over $80,000 worth of damage on this home. Oh man, I'm just tired of this property. And I'm already kind of like, man, this job that I thought I had reeled in is not looking too great. And, you try to find the silver lining, and I'm glad I kept pursuing it because he says, this house is just a pain in my butt. I want to sell it. Do you want to buy it? And I'm like, absolutely. And the way he was talking, I'll just give it to you. I'm like, no, you're not going to give it to me. So I'm thinking we got to come up with the price. So this was the deal we made. He was worried that his insurance carrier wasn't going to pay the max $60,000. So I told him, I will write an estimate. I will meet with your insurance adjuster. I will go to bat for you. But you and I have to agree on a fair number to sell me this property and as is condition. And he proposed $10,000. And looking back at it, I should have just said yes and shook hands and immediately drew up the contract. I'm over there negotiating. I brought it down to $7,000. I bought a house, fire damage for $7,000. And I ended up selling it in as-is condition to another investor for $56,000.
Wow.
So yeah, that was my first taste in real estate.
And had you done any, like, how did you know to buy it for less than 10? Like, were you getting any advice, or was this all just like, hey, I think this could be more?
I knew it needed $80,000 worth of work. So there's that, right? And it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. This was major cross streets, Belmont and First, not the best neighborhood.
Yeah, no.
A little rough over there, right? So all those things kind of played a role in my price, and he was just frustrated. You know, he wanted out of it. I had to talk to city code enforcement. Was all over his butt. So I had to call code enforcement, put that fire out, kind of make them go away.
Made you earn your money right
they
there.
Did, man. Yeah.
And so after you did that deal, you closed on it and you sold it, or did you assign it?
I closed on it, and then I was Jason once again. You know, his name keeps coming up because he has kind of helped me a lot to kind of point me in the right direction on which steps to take to get into real estate investing. So he was super excited. And he's like, hey, man, I'm going to list it for you. We'll have some people come out. I'll have one of my team members there. They'll show the property, and, you know, we're going to sell to the highest bidder. I'm like, great, let's do it. And in my head, I was thinking, oh, we'll probably get offers for $30,000, $35,000. I never would have thought that it was sold for $56,000. Yeah.
And so, I mean, you have a great experience there.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
At that point, were you like, nah, I'm doing this full time? Like, what transpired?
I kept, you know, thinking, okay, what can we do to find, because I see what Jason's doing. I see other real estate investors on Instagram, and it's like, okay, this is real. Okay, this can happen. And I have that like direct correlation. Construction and rehabbing and real estate investing go hand in hand.
Yeah.
Because if I purchase a property, I don't have to go out and source a contractor. That's my 9 to 5. That's what we do. And we do major rehabs. I mean, major reconstruction, right? So if we're just throwing lipstick on a house, oh, hell, that's easy compared to what we're used to doing.
Yeah. Well, and again, before the pod, I think we were talking about this, that like we use cheater methods to come up with our estimates.
Right, yeah.
You will know. I mean, you and I have walked properties before, and I'm
Yes.
like, oh, I think it's going to be X. And you're like, no, it's going to be Y. And Y is way higher than X. And
my lenses are a little different because of that. And then keep in mind, my numbers and prices are a little different because sometimes, like I said earlier, I get to pick and choose, you know, maybe a higher trade that would cost me more dollars. I can say, no, we can handle this internally. You know, my guys and I, my hourly guys and I can tackle this, and we can save some bucks there. So it's finding that balance. So my lens is a little bit different than your typical investor, because they might not have a whole lot of hands-on experience or be tradesmen to say, hey, we can do this in-house. They have to rely on their subcontractors and the pricing that they're going to get.
well, and also I feel like it carries a lot of weight, the same way that Cade and I have the benefit of being realtors. You know, when we talk about what this house is worth, people carry a little bit more weight to
Sure.
what we say, only because we have that credential.
And that makes sense.
But
And
when
they should.
you talk to a client and they say this rehab should only cost $20,000, you can quickly say, hey, this may have cost $20,000 when my grandpa got started.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this is a $90,000 rehab because
Yes.
of X, Y, and Z, and they
Right.
could interrogate you, and you'll know everything. Have you
Yeah.
had that?
I've had that before, and I've had clients, when they see an insurance payout, they think it's a lottery ticket once again. And I have lost jobs because in their mind, hey, we can get any contractor to do this. And I've had people reach out to me months later and come back and tell me, hey, man, do you remember me? Yeah. What's going on? How's your project? Well, that's why I'm calling you. Nothing's happening. It's been 4.5 months. Oh, really? Okay. I kind of want to say I told you so, but
Right.
sometimes I can pick up the pieces and make things work. And sometimes they're just too far in. Too much money's been paid out. I'm like, hey, look, guys, I wish you the best of luck. You're in too deep with this other contractor. You just have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to perform.
Yeah. Well, and like when you've moved to the investing side too now, you're bidding on properties that you're going to buy. You're not
Right.
working for insurance. What does
Correct.
that conversation look like? Because I know people interrogate us and they're like, well, what's your background? What do you know? Blah, blah, blah. Because everybody feels like they know their home better than you. And I
Sure.
give them the benefit of the doubt. But ours is more based on values.
Right.
Is yours a lot on fixing the home?
Fixing the home, absolutely. So I'm glad that you brought that up, because I do kind of reference that to let them know, hey, look, no offense, but this home needs a lot of work. And by the way, I'm also a licensed general contractor, so when I see a property, I can gauge very quickly on what this is going to take to rehab. So that helps me with my numbers. Going back to what you said, comping ARV for me has been tricky. Because I'm limited. You guys have access to MLS. You get to see a little bit. You get to see more recent sales or pending sales, right? I only use radar, property radar, so I can only see what's sold, and those are months old. So it's a little challenging for me sometimes to come out with, okay, what's a real ARV? What am I going to get for this property once I dial it all in?
What have you done to kind of get through that challenge?
Just, kind of go outside the area, find as many homes that I can see on radar, and just kind of average it out and help me. And that kind of helps me along with where I think my numbers are going to be at the end.
Yeah.
Well, dude, you're talking like a seasoned investor. Like you've been doing like that.
I have to fake it till I make it, Kate.
Well,
we talked about that earlier.
We did.
Been working my whole life, man.
We did, but I want to ask you, because we have obviously a lot of people who listen to the podcast who either one are looking to get started in real estate investing, or two may have a deal or two under their belt, but really looking to get their feet settled in.
Sure.
What do you attribute? Like, talk about the growth a little bit, because it sounds like it's been a lot and fast, and like the way you talk and the way you're doing business, you're doing it like a seasoned pro.
I appreciate that, man. I really do. I think I'm so comfortable with it just because of the strong background in construction, because I try to think of, okay, a new investor who doesn't have a strong background in construction. Think about how discouraging that could be when they're looking at a property that's totally beat up and they have no background. I can see that being an obstacle that they're going to have to overcome. That's why I think it's been easier for me to kind of adapt to the real estate side of it, because I have that strong background. But, the challenge for me has been finding deals. So the whale that's been drawing water has been mailers for me. So it's something that, we can set up online, and I don't have to personally handwrite a letter and send it out. We can just have a service take care of that for us. So since that's been bringing in leads, we've actually increased our mailing list very recently from, I think it was sending out 1,100 letters a month to a little over 3,000 letters now. So
wow, tripled it.
Yes, our net has gotten wider, and it's paying off because we're getting more leads come in. The phone's ringing a little bit more, and it's turning into real deals.
And, I have to clarify this, because it's not everybody's experience that 1,100 mailers gets deals. You have a niche in talking with people. I mean, that's clear.
Already, yeah.
You've built that out over a long time.
I'm used to hearing no quite a bit.
Well, and you're a good salesman. You've already talked about you have to sell the adjuster. You have to sell the client.
Yeah, right. Yes.
So when you're talking with these people as an investor who's only really been doing a lot of your own flips for the last 4 or 5 years,
right,
and now more seriously making this a bigger portion of your business,
right?
Has that been difficult, or have you found it pretty natural?
It's been difficult just because, once again, I wear too many hats. I want to do everything myself. I have these trust issues. Like, okay, if I hire somebody, I don't want them to foul this up. I want to be in control of that. So letting go for me has been challenging. And to be honest with you, I know I'm in my way of the real estate side really taking off. So I need to find somebody that can help me answer calls, qualify leads. We're good at closing. My wife is actually really good at closing. She's my secret weapon. I have taken my wife out to challenging clients that were like on the fence of hiring me to restore their home. Come on, Michelle, go with me. I want you. And it's like, there we are signing, because she's just naturally genuine and wants to talk to you. You talked about Caruth earlier, the property that I purchased that you lived in that neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
Or you still live in that neighborhood?
Yeah.
I got it because of her.
Well,
I took her to the meeting, and the gentleman that owned the property fell in love with her. And yeah, she's my secret weapon, man. So I'm more, I can be friendly, and I'm more the business side. She knew this man's whole life story. She's telling, I'm like, damn, you guys just talked for like 30 minutes. How do you know his whole life story? So she's really good at building that rapport. And I think that's important.
Absolutely.
What's it like having her, working with, you mentioned before the podcast, you're hoping that your business gets so busy that she feels that need to jump over. How is it like working with a wife?
You know what? I'm all for it. I think she has an issue because she says that I don't talk very friendly. When I'm in business mode, I'm not going to stop and say, can you pretty please do this? It's going to be like, hey, I need you to take care of this. And she doesn't like that.
Yeah.
She thinks that we're going to butt heads because of that. And I said, you have to understand, there's nobody else that I would really trust with this business other than you. I mean, you're one of the founding owners of this thing already. So she's really good at her current job right now. She is a call center supervisor for Planned Parenthood. She works 100% from home, which I could never do.
I couldn't either.
Oh God, I would go absolutely insane. So. And it's tough because when I get home, like I'm driving around town all damn day and I don't want to leave the house once I get home. And she's like itching to get out to go, like, hey, let's go eat somewhere. I'm like, really? I've been out all day. But I think she's just gotten really comfortable in where she's at. And I see more potential in her. And my hopes is that Hemi Investments phone is just ringing off the damn hook where we have too many deals on our plate where, okay, you have to come in full time. Otherwise I can't, My plate's already full with Third Power Construction, and I'm trying to manage this whole other entity that we've created that's starting to generate income. And what it is, too, is like our whole goal is to have a rental portfolio. So it's nice that we have Third Power Construction because that pays for all our bills and expenses, and it kind of alleviates the pressure on the investment side because if all we did was investing, maybe we wouldn't be able to hold as many properties because we still have to pay our bills and live, right? So if I see a property that I would want to turn into a rental, maybe I might be forced to sell it because we need to generate income. Third Power gives us flexibility on the real estate side to say, hey, we don't have to sell this. We don't need the money today. Let's hold it, turn it into a rental, add it to the portfolio.
I think that's what's really powerful about what you've built and kind of the two companies that you're running, because I mean that, at the end of the day, making quick cash on flips and wholesales is all fun and dandy, right? But the goal is to build that portfolio, invest your money into assets that continue to pay you when you can't work.
Absolutely.
And so being able to, I'm sure you guys have done flips and you've done some done some wholesales, but exactly like you said, being able to pick and choose, not worry about the bills not being paid. You've got this company going, and this is strictly going out and hunting to
deals,
add to that portfolio.
Yes. And it's nice because it gives us that flexibility. It doesn't put a whole lot of pressure on us like we have to sell every property. No, we don't. We don't have to do that because Third Power is profitable and it keeps us going. So yeah, I like it. And then they both go hand in hand,
Yeah, they both develop each other.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, let's add some value because, Henry, you've already given a lot of value to the listeners.
Well, I hope so.
The listeners that we talk to have zero construction background. If they come across a deal and they think it's a deal, but they don't know how to run the numbers on the rehab, they don't know how to manage the rehab, are you looking to joint venture on stuff?
I've had people reach out to me before. With joint venture, for me, it's challenging. I guess it would just depend on what are they going to bring to the table because I know managing a rehab is challenging and I have a lot on my plate already. So if they were bringing something unique or the terms worked out, I would be open to it. Yeah.
Okay. So if people want to reach out to you, and you're also a cash buyer.
I'm also a cash buyer.
Let's clarify that as well. Yeah. If you have a deal, and especially something that has a remodel that you don't fully comprehend, Henry, you got to be one of the best people I can think of to reach out to and say, hey, what does this even look like on a remodel? And then also, what could you, Henry, pay if I lock this thing up and assign it to you?
Sure, yeah.
And I think your experience on this whole rehab construction side, along with you've exited multiple deals, you have people around you who can help you come up with ARV if it's a particularly difficult house. How would you want them to reach out to you?
They can reach out to me through Instagram or, I've been posting little videos on my Instagram that have my direct numbers to both companies on there. So they can shoot me a text, phone call.
What's
And
your,
I've
what's your
had
Instagram,
people-
real quick?
My Instagram, I have two of them. So I have one for Third Power Construction, which I'm not very active on, but you can find it under Third Power Construction, all one word. And then my personal page is where I'm more active. It's Henry Resendez III.
Gotcha.
And then my Facebook is also Henry Resendez III. I joined Facebook 20 years too late, but it is what it is.
Well, Henry, as we wrap up, I know, like Scott was saying, you've already shared a crap ton of value for people on the other end, either listening or watching. But any last final piece of advice for, that newer investor who may be in a spot where they don't know what to do next? I mean, you've talked about the importance of mentors, having that background in construction.
Yes.
Like, what is it that you think is that golden nugget for someone to walk away with to get that ball rolling?
Don't give up, because a lot of people, they get discouraged, right? And I personally have experienced that. When I first started sending out postcards, it's like, really, another batch going out? And I was getting calls, but it's people cussing me out, telling me to take me off of their effing list and blah, blah, blah. And, it starts to build and weigh on you. And it's like, okay, man, this sucks. But don't give up. Just keep on sending them. And marketing is very expensive. So using direct mail is very expensive. So if you're new and you're just starting out, there's guys I follow on Instagram. They're out there pounding the concrete. They're out there door knocking, and they're getting deals. Or they're driving for dollars. My wife and I will drive for dollars. Now, it's fun for me for about an hour. And then after that, it's like, okay, I've had enough. This sucks. I'm teaching my sons, by the way, what to look for. And it's exciting to see them. Oh, shit, look, Dad, there's a house.
That's
Stop,
awesome.
Dad, stop. I want to,
Write down
and it's
the address.
Yeah, exactly. So that's my goal, to train them. Because, when you're young, you get your driver's license. Hell, you want to drive around for no reason. And I go out there and go and drive neighborhoods, man.
Yeah.
Make me a list, and let's see if we get any hits off of it. So there are other things that people can do. I just don't personally have the time to sit there and door knock. So I'm choosing mail. And you've said it before, I've closed a few deals, so we have a little bit of cash flow that we can put into the business and take care of the marketing. But I would say don't give up. Follow these guys, these two guys here. We're mentored by the same mentor that I have and currently have. There's a lot of good information and networking. Go to the real estate meetups. You're going to meet a lot of different people there. So that would be my advice to the newbie.
Dude, thank you for coming on. I've had
thanks
so
for having
many
me, man.
questions about what happens with a fire. This makes me feel
It's intriguing.
calmer that, like, if a fire happens, one, I've always been a proponent of good insurance.
Oh, yes.
Always make sure you're
Yes.
insured correctly on
Yes.
an investment deal and your primary.
And I would like to add, in closing, I'm a huge advocate. If you're renting a property, you are not the landlord.
Ooh.
Carry renter's insurance, please. I beg you. It's like $20 a month and worth every penny. I see a lot of ugly things that happen in this field. And imagine you've lost all of your personal belongings and now you're homeless because the apartment or house that you were renting is destroyed. I mean, that's a nightmare. If you have renter's insurance, it will cover all of your personal belongings and they will help relocate you.
Wow.
And find you a place to live. So very important. Stop what you're doing. If you don't carry it, go get it.
Dude, Henry, thank you seriously for coming on.
No problem, man. Thanks for having me, gentlemen.
Dude.
This was fun.
This
You're a
was.
beast. Thank you. Absolutely, yes. Thank you for coming on, man. We appreciate you.
We'll see you guys next week.
See ya.